Hello, this is Adam Bernard with AutoPerspectives, and it's time for another news roundup and a look at some of the more interesting stories from the past week in the auto industry. It's a bit of a quiet week. I think everyone's still recovering from the Shanghai Motor Show, but there are three interesting new SUVs to talk about this week. Now, my first car was a Peugeot 504 74 gasoline automatic, so I've always had a fondness for weird French cars. And lately, both Peugeot and Citroen have not failed to deliver on some very weird, fun, innovative vehicles. The latest being the Citroen C5 Aircross. This is a compact SUV. It is a production version of a concept shown at last year's Paris Motor Show, and it uses the new Stella Medium platform. That's a multi-energy architecture, which means it can support gasoline and hybrid and plug-in hybrid and electric. So it's shared with the Peugeot 3008 and 5008 and the upcoming Jeep Compass, among other vehicles. Visually, it's a little less curvy than previous Citroens, a little sharper edged. It's got a very strong shoulder running down the side, a sloping roof line in the back to help aero, and up front you see Citroen's new 3-point light signature. The new C5 Aircross is longer on a longer wheelbase, so that gives them more passenger space, and also allows them to put some larger wheels, in this case up to 20-inch wheels, which look pretty good in these photos. At the rear, you can see, for lack of a better term, call them fins. That strong shoulder in the back has allowed Citroen to add what they call light wings that float like fins at the outer edge of the vehicles, and you can see them both on the left and right side of the liftgate. And that's supposed to help the overall aerodynamics, which of course contributes to the overall EV range. Underneath, the C5 Aircross has progressive hydraulic cushions in the suspension, which provides that kind of a magic carpet ride. The French have always been known for comfort and smooth rides, and so Citroen and Peugeot are working on some enablers to get there. I mentioned this is a multi-energy architecture, and so you do have quite a few choices here. The base C5 Aircross is a mild hybrid turbo. You can also get a plug-in hybrid turbo, which gives you about 45 miles EPA equivalent range, which is pretty good. Or the EV, which if they sold it here would get you probably about 360 miles on the EPA cycle, which is very impressive for a non-luxury EV. The EV gets to that range with things like a heat pump, 3 stages of regenerative braking. It also offers V2L capability, like we've seen in the new Hyundai and Kia EVs, which allow you to plug electric devices into the vehicle. And it also has 160 kilowatt DC fast charging. Again, this is not an 800 volt vehicle, so it's not super fast like the Hyundais, but 160 watts is still what I would call competitive in this price class. The interior is where things get really, really interesting. Citroen calls the dashboard a sofa design. So the bottom part of the dashboard is covered in a foam fabric. So like a sofa, it's very soft and comfortable looking. And in the middle is what they call the waterfall screen. So that's a portrait-oriented setup. It has both fixed and customizable sections in the display, so it's split up into little windows, some of which you can fiddle around with, some of which you can't. The infotainment system stores up to 8 driver profiles, which sounds like a little more than most of us need. And the onboard digital assistant incorporates ChatGPT. So if you have a question to ask, it has nothing to do with your car, like who won the World Series in 1969, you can now do that from your C5 Aircross. Interestingly, the clear plastic trim in the door and the console area incorporates vine shoots from organic vineyards in Burgundy. So I can't think of a more French material to use than a French vehicle. So credit to Stellantis for coming up with this clever approach to the circular economy. The seats have a nice quilting effect, and they are called Advanced Comfort. They have electrically adjustable front seat back bolsters, which is something you would normally find in a luxury vehicle, not again in a mainstream branded product, and reclining rear seats. This will be on sale later this year, pricing to be determined. Jeep's Compass is, it's getting a little long in the tooth. We have been waiting several years for a new Compass. The current one is 9 years old. It actually launched in 2016. It'll go on sale in Europe later this year. So these photos leaked onto the web this past week. We don't have the official unveil yet. I suspect we'll see it sometime between now and the IAA show in Munich in September. In the US, the next generation Compass would become the new entry-level Jeep. But in Europe, it would sit above the Jeep Avenger. It shares the Stella Medium architecture with the new Citroen C5 Aircross. And up front, the blanked off grille that you see here suggests this vehicle is the electric variant. But like the Citroen C5 Aircross, we expect to see mild hybrid turbos, plug-in hybrid turbos with, say, a 40 to 45 mile range, or an EV that could hit up to 360 miles. It's unclear which variants will be in which market. We might not get all three of them here in North America. The white vehicle that you see here is likely the off-road oriented Trailhawk, with some additional features to make it just a bit more off-road capable. When the initial Jeep Compass came out, it was very much an on-road vehicle, and people joked that it was mall rated, but they tried to avoid that with this particular generation. The interior, and we've only got that one shot there, looks pretty nice. It features aluminum accents, a panoramic glass roof, a large center touchscreen, and stitched leather seats. So definitely an effort to make this more of a premium vehicle. Like the Citroen C5 Aircross, the onboard digital assistant may offer ChatGPT. Now, this vehicle was supposed to launch in North America, built in the Brampton, Ontario plant in February 2026. This past February, Stellantis paused work on that, so there may be a delay in the launch, which is unfortunate because the Jeep brand needs to dig itself out of the hole it's in, and one way to do that is with fresh new product. And we have the Lynk&Co 900. Now, I know if you see this in print, you'll probably just call it the 900, but the folks at Lynk&Co have taken pains to point out that's how you pronounce it. To be honest, any vehicle name that you have to tell people how to pronounce is probably not appropriate. Just call it 900. This is a full-size luxury three-row SUV priced around $42,000 to $58,000 in China, probably more in Europe, but it joins a range of small, compact, and mid-size premium electrified cars and SUVs from Lynk&Co. Lynk&Co was initially a joint venture between Geely and Volvo, but now Zeekr, which is also part of the Geely empire, holds majority stake, so they're running the show here. The 900 or 900 shares the SPA Evo platform with the new Volvo EX90, although in this case it's a multi-energy vehicle. The front display up front is made of 10,192 individual lamps. So we've been seeing a lot of interesting innovation with lighting lately, and the 900 does not disappoint. This flagship is 5.24 meters long. It's around the same size as the standard Cadillac Escalade, with a claimed drag coefficient of 0.291. Now, as always, take that with a grain of salt. Your mileage may vary depending on whose wind tunnel you happen to be using. The tail lamp bar at the back consists of 2,400 lamps, and there is standard roof-mounted LiDAR using the Orin X or Thor chips from NVIDIA to enable navigate on autopilot on both highways and urban roads. As I mentioned, this is a multi-energy architecture, so not full electric. It is a plug-in hybrid, either a 1.5-liter dual motor setup with a total output of 711 horsepower, or a 2-liter tri-motor setup with a rather mind-boggling 872 horsepower, and the range up to 150 miles EPA equivalent. That would be the longest EV range of any plug-in hybrid in market. And we've seen a number of automakers trying to increase the range. We know that in California, to meet the ZEV requirements, if you have a plug-in hybrid with 50 miles range, you can get there. So everyone's been trying to up the ante, and that's a combination of new technology and better batteries. Inside, there's a 30-inch 6K resolution Snapdragon powered touchscreen and a very slim 12.7-inch LCD instrument cluster. There are twin wireless charging pads, and sliding and swiveling second row seats, and sliding and reclining third row seats. So it seems to have all the bells and whistles you associate with a luxury SUV. Again, Lynk&Co is not targeting Cadillac or Mercedes or Audi. They're more like a premium brand. And hence the pricing at $42,000 to $58,000. But overall, it looks to be a very well executed vehicle. That about wraps things up for this somewhat shorter episode of Auto Perspectives. If you like what you've seen here, please subscribe and share. And to learn more about Auto Perspectives, visit our website at www.autoperspectives.net. And we'll see you back here next week.